Dan with Guardian Mold Prevent here. I wanted to shoot a video to try to tackle a topic which addresses a question that we get quite often about mold reoccurrences once the remediation process has been completed. We're looking at a basement of a home that was located in Westmont, Illinois, and this is a mold remediation project that we finished back in July of 2014. So now you can fast forward, we're about 6 to 7 months later. You can see that what we did was we removed all the porous material, so the drywall, insulation, trim, all those items came out. We scrubbed everything down that was affected, coated it with a white acrylic-based mold-resistant coating, and as you look through the basement, you can see that all the areas that we treated white are clean and there has been no mold reoccurrence. But as we pan up to the ceiling in this bedroom, you'll notice that mold has now developed on the ceiling portion of the basement. And if you look closely at the top of the blue wall here, right at the corner, you can see that quite a bit of water has gotten in since the time that we did the mold remediation project, and the paint is actually peeling away from the wall in some areas. As we pan underneath the staircase, you can see there's some mold, and again along the wall, the paint is actually peeling because so much water was getting into this basement after the remediation project was finished. Apparently there was a secondary pipe break on the main level that was allowing water to just pour right down into the basement. Now, again, I want you to note that as we look around this basement, you'll see that the white coatings that we applied, the mold-resistant coatings, are all free from mold growth, but the porous materials that are like drywall and insulation that were left behind that were wet, again, after the remediation project was completed, have now developed mold. So we wanted to put this video together to try to tackle why you would get mold reoccurrence in a basement. So in order to understand that, we would have to look at what mold needs to grow. The first thing mold needs is obviously a food source. The second thing that it needs in order to take hold is a moisture source. And then the third thing that mold needs are favorable conditions in order to begin to develop. Now, when we look at each of those things, we can break it down even further. When we talk about food sources for mold, we mainly talk about organic materials. You'll find mold on the north side of trees in a forest because mold will eat wood, mold will eat leaves, mold will eat anything that's organic. Cellulose products, paper products, anything like drywall, paper, and porous materials, which really falls under mainly the two previous categories. And then when we talk about moisture sources for mold, we talk about leaks, high humidity, and condensation. Now, in regards to leaks, which is the cause of the reoccurrence of the mold in this particular property, there's not a lot that you can do except for get the leak at its source, get that corrected, and button that up. In terms of high humidity, we find this quite often in homes, especially in the winter time. If you're getting condensation on your window panes, you're probably running your humidifiers too high. And especially, condensation being the last thing, we see that quite a bit in attic spaces where the house heat, the moist house heat is getting up into the attic. It hits those cold surfaces in the attic, and then it reaches dew point, condensates, and then ultimately you get mold growth. Now, when we talk about favorable conditions, we're talking about, again, high humidity. Mold needs some kind of a moisture source to grow. We see this again in higher volume problems, especially in the winter time, because of the fact that people don't want to have those scratchy throats. They don't want to have the dry throat in the morning. And so they run the humidifiers, and most of the time they run them at too high of a level. Also to note that humidifiers on furnaces are really not scientific tools. There's just a baffle inside your furnace that allows air to run through that humidifier. And so while your dial may say 20%, you may be dumping 40, 50, 60% in. The other thing that makes favorable conditions is large amounts of dust. So if you see mold developing around your window sills or window panes, you may want to wipe those down, and stagnant air. Especially now in new construction, we've got the houses wrapped so tight, houses just don't breathe like they used to.